I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
When you think of movie car chases, there are certain films that just come to mind. If you're old school, you may think of something like 1968's Bullitt starring Steve McQueen, or The French Connection directed by William Friedkin. Younger folks might instantly name a film from the Fast and Furious franchise. But for those of us who like the blend of classic and contemporary, we'll tell you that John Frankenheimer's Ronin showcases some of the best driving sequences of all time. The 1998 thriller stars Robert De Niro, Sean Bean, Jonathan Pryce, Stellan Skarsgård, Jean Reno, and Natasha McKellen. Ronin was a moderate success when it hit theaters, only grossing about $70.7 million worldwide against a budget of $55 million. The film received a pretty lukewarm reception when it was released, while audiences tended to be even less forgiving, giving the movie a really weak C+ cinema score. I remember seeing it in theaters with a couple of my buddies, and we were only about 16 years old at the time. They all hated it. I thought it was amazing. And in the 2 decades since Ronin premiered, it's undergone a significant reassessment, commonly ranking on lists of best action films and best movies you never heard of, making it a natural for the best movie you never saw. And it even inspired subsequent films and video games like Burnout and Alpha Protocol. And it earned a spot in a book of 101 action movies you need to see before you die. So naturally, Ronin is just the perfect fit for this series. The genesis of Ronin came from rookie screenwriter John David Zike. After reading James Clavell's great novel Shogun when he was 15, Zike was enamored with the idea of Ronin, masterless samurai who roamed the Japanese countryside as essentially mercenaries for hire. Years later, Zeke visited Nice in France, where he came up with the modern setting for the story. In 1997, John Frankenheimer boarded the project. An acclaimed filmmaker since the 60s, Frankenheimer in many ways is considered the grandfather of action movies, thanks to films like The Train, Birdman of Alcatraz, The Manchurian Candidate, Seconds starring Rock Hudson, which is another amazing movie people should check out, and of course the F1 movie Grand Prix starring James Garner. Thank you for watching JoBlo videos. If you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now, like this video, and click on the bell so you'll be notified each time a new video goes up. Now, back to the show. In the 1970s, Frankenheimer himself actually helmed French Connection 2, then moved on to Black Sunday, another amazing action movie with Robert Shaw and the Goodyear blimp, and a terrible movie called Prophecy, which kind of kicked off a skid of bad films in the 1980s and 90s. He did a couple of movies that weren't bad, such as Dead Bang with Don Johnson, but for the most part, his career took a bit of a dive. 2 years before Ronin, Frankenheimer's career arguably reached its nadir when he took over for Richard Stanley on the abysmal island of Dr. Moreau. That Ronin came on the heels of that debacle remains one of the biggest turnarounds of any filmmaker in history. Ronin is often looked at as the last great film from Frankenheimer, who directed only a couple more big screen and TV projects before his death in 2002, his last movie being Reindeer Games, which was taken away from him and re-edited by the studio, and there's a director's cut of that movie that's out there that's quite a bit better than what we saw in theaters. At the time, however, Frankenheimer was still making movies and was even slated to direct a prequel to The Exorcist, which is a massive mess of a story of its own that we actually covered on What the F Happened to This Horror Movie. Frankenheimer said that he was drawn to the Ronin script simply because it's the kind of movie that he himself would go see in theaters. He likes character-driven action pictures, and of course he admitted that he had a lot of experience doing films like that with Black Sunday and French Connection 2. The director was also excited to film in France, where he had shot 4 other movies during his career.
I am the tour guide. Over there is the Eiffel Tower, over here the Louvre, over there les toilettes.
Frankenheimer assembled a crew of colleagues from other projects including editor Tony Gibbs, set designer Michael Hannon, and costume designer May Roth. He chose Robert Fraze as his cinematographer because he was French, and also based on his work on the stylish HBO serial killer movie Citizen X. Frankenheimer selected Robert De Niro for the lead role in this film and always considered him a dream choice for the main character. Of course, when a name as big as De Niro signs on, the script needs to be beefed up a bit, and it was decided to bring on the acclaimed writer David Mamet for the job. Mamet added a love interest and worked on several scenes, and the Writers Guild Association granted him a screenwriting credit on the movie. Zeike's attorney claimed Mamet's contributions were minor, while Frankenheimer reportedly said they were substantial, and that they didn't shoot a single line of Zeike's version. In an open letter to Variety in September of 1998, Frankenheimer adjusted his statement and said J.D. Zeike is unequivocally entitled to the first position screenwriting credit as well as the sole story credit he was awarded by the WGA. He deserves recognition for his significant contribution to the film, and I'm proud to have worked with him. Mamet, per his personal policy never to take credit unless he was the sole writer, is credited as Richard Weiss. Ronin was filmed over 78 days in 1997 with a pretty sizable budget of $55 million.
What would I profit from your death?
Well, you'd have the money.
I have the money already.
Much of the film was done in an abandoned workshop in Aubervilliers, as well as the historic Arles Amphitheater, along with scenes in Cannes, La Turbie, and Villefranche. A scene at the end of the film even featured 2,000 extras. Ronin did not employ a second unit director or a camera operator for action sequences, which added an additional 30 days for Frankenheimer and Prix to oversee because there were a ton of driving sequences. Frankenheimer's trademark use of wide-angle lenses resulted in much of the film being shot in Super 35mm. He also elected to avoid bright colors and asked actors and extras not to wear them either so that the film could be processed with Deluxe's color contrast enhancement to give the film deeper blacks and heightened film grain, which of course is very evident if you watch the HD version of the film. Prix also used a wide range of cameras, including Panaflexes for dialogue scenes, Aeroflex for car chases, and Steadicam for others. In the end, 2,200 shots were filmed for Ronin. To achieve the car chases, Frankenheimer refused to use CGI and instead storyboarded every element. The actual actors were placed in the vehicles, which were driven up to 100 miles per hour by trained drivers, including Formula One driver Jean-Pierre Jarier. The main cast were also enrolled in driving school before production began to lend realism to their sequences. Frankenheimer also did not want to cheat by tweaking the film speed, but some scenes were shot at 21 or 22 frames per second. Point-of-view cameras were also employed, mounted on the front wheel of vehicles to heighten the intensity and speed. The final chase, the film's best sequence, used 300 stunt drivers. 4 BMW 535i's and 5 Peugeot 406's were cut in half to allow actors to be placed inside and get better shots. Frankenheimer also elected to use very little music for the final scene, as he felt the blend of sound effects and score would not work well. Similar to his qualms about car chases, Frankenheimer did not film any gunfights in slow motion, as he believed actual on-screen violence should be shown in real time. The cast were trained in weapons handling by Special Air Service veteran Mick Gould. The movie also employed a score by Czech composer Ilya Simral, his first for a studio film. Ronin works as a mixture of all the elements that make John Frankenheimer's best movies so good. Firstly, echoing the MacGuffin from the work of Hitchcock, Ronin uses mysterious briefcase as the goal of all the characters. They all want to obtain this briefcase, and we never learn what's inside of it.
What's in the case? What's in the case? What's in the case?
Despite the cinematic trope, Frankenheimer instills a hyper-realistic sense to the film. By not using special effects and filming everything on set, Ronin looks like it could almost be a documentary. Throughout the film, Frankenheimer uses classic techniques to make Ronin look more realistic, including wipes and other edits to conceal when shots shift from location shoots to sets. These invisible cuts increase the tension but keep everything on screen from feeling like it could only happen in a movie. Like the gritty car chases in Bullet and The French Connection, each scene of the movie gives you the desire to pause so you can try and figure out how the crew achieved some of these amazing shots. Ronin also benefits from other inspirations, notably classic tales like that of the 47 Ronin, which bands together warriors for a unified mission. The same approach had been done by Quentin Tarantino with his early films like Reservoir Dogs, with which Ronin shares many similarities. It also works thanks to the amazing cast, led by Robert De Niro. Coming off of 1995's Casino and Heat, 1996's The Fan, and 1997's Jackie Brown, Ronin put De Niro in his first true action movie in years. Similar to Heat, Ronin boasts some of the best action sequences of the 90s. Jean Reno also brought credibility from his turns in both Mission Impossible and, of course, The Professional, with Sean Bean, Stellan Skarsgård, and Jonathan Pryce, all rounding out the crew. The addition of Natasha McKellen served as both a solid primary love interest for De Niro as well as a major point of contention. 2 alternate endings exist for Ronin, one of which implies her character, Deirdre, is killed by IRA members. Test audiences apparently hated this ending, and the alternate happy ending, which is not really that happy, was deemed too Hollywood and left room for a sequel. As it stands, Ronin is a top-notch thriller that makes amazing use of French city streets in a way rarely seen in film. The action deservedly ranks among the best car chase films ever made, and the quippy dialogue is cool and quotable, like Sam's line when Spence asks him if he ever killed anyone, to which De Niro coolly replies as only De Niro can.
I hurt somebody's feelings once.
There are countless quotes made by De Niro that we don't utter enough in daily conversation like we do from some of his more popular films, and Ronin deserves to stand alongside of those.
Yeah, well, either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution, or you're just part of the landscape.
It's a slow burn peppered with pulse-pounding chase sequences, clean and crisp yet gritty cinematography, and badass characters. This movie appeals to fans of thrillers, spies, heists, action, and solid character work. Think of it as the mature, classy, older brother to the Fast saga. And if you like Frankenheimer, make sure to check out some of his other seminal films. There are so many great ones. One of them is The Train, which is a really gritty World War II tale starring Burt Lancaster as a French resistance member, and he did all of his own stunts despite being middle-aged at the time, which was really a precursor of more modern Hollywood films. He also did a great thriller called 7 Days in May, again with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. In the 1970s, he did a thriller that's a little bit non-PC these days, but pretty interesting, called Black Sunday, which stars Robert Shaw from Jaws as an Israeli secret agent. It's a pretty cool movie with an amazing hair-raising climax involving the Goodyear blimp. And of course, he did the Don Johnson movie Dead Bang, which it's kind of fun. I mean, if you like Don Johnson, it's a fun flick. And of course, check out his Formula One epic Grand Prix, which itself is kind of his masterpiece in some ways. Too bad that John Frankenheimer passed away, because he really was one of the great unheralded directors of his generation, and in a lot of ways the granddaddy of action cinema. Rest in peace, sir. And if you like this kind of program, make sure to click on the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest videos. We're an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.